So, if you're anything like me, you probably live with this constant pressure, right? These huge, kind of intimidating goals.
Hmm.
You know, January 1st rolls around, or maybe a big birthday, or even just a Monday where you feel super motivated.
Yeah, the fresh start feeling.
Exactly. And we declare like total war on our old selves. We promise, okay, I'm going to master this new skill in 60 days, or I'll study like 3 hours every single night.
Oh yeah, the big promises.
And what happens? Like maybe 2 weeks later, the guilt creeps in. We're totally burnt out, and well, we're right back where we started. It's frustrating.
It really is.
Well, today we're going to challenge that whole idea. We're diving deep into the surprisingly sort of gentle way change actually works. We're exploring why going for that immediate radical transformation is often, a bit of a psychological trap, and
Right.
why these tiny micro actions are the real engine for like massive long-term improvement.
That's the core of it.
Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today, it's to give you the ultimate shortcut, really, to understanding the science behind small habits. We're drawing on research about consistency, identity, um, automation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We want you to walk away from this deep dive, not just knowing you should start small, but really understanding why it works.
Mm-hmm.
Why it gets around the brain's natural resistance.
Hmm.
The main takeaway, honestly, is that you don't always need massive motivation or willpower for big changes. What you need are tiny, consistent systems.
Okay, let's unpack that. And I guess we have to start with the math behind these tiny shifts, because the impact is so delayed, right? People give up way before they see anything happen.
That's it. We call it the multiplier effect, and it's definitely not linear, not at all. To show this, the research often uses this really powerful analogy, the 1-degree shift.
Ah, yeah.
So imagine a huge airplane, okay, flying from, say, New York to London.
Okay.
If right at the start, the pilot adjusts the plane's nose, just 1 single degree, I mean, an angle so small you wouldn't even notice,
Right, tiny.
the plane doesn't land in London anymore. It ends up hundreds of miles off course, maybe Edinburgh, maybe Paris. That tiny, almost invisible adjustment at the start, it leads to a completely different destination.
And our lives, our trajectory works exactly the same way. It's fascinating.
Hmm.
Whether you're aiming to learn a language or get fitter or, save money, one small habit done consistently is actually steering you to a different place. It's like compound interest for your life.
Yeah, think about specific examples, like reading 1 page of a technical book or even a novel each day. It feels like nothing, right? Pointless almost.
Totally invisible progress.
But the math doesn't lie. 365 days later, that's 365 pages. That's a whole book you've read without ever feeling that huge pressure of, oh God, I have to read this entire book.
Or take language learning. If you
Yeah,
commit to learning just one new English phrase every day, not just a word, but a whole phrase,
yeah, the whole chunk.
over a year, that adds up to over 365 complex structures. That's enough to express, I mean, hundreds of new ideas. It really boosts your fluency dramatically.
And what's interesting, or maybe frustrating, is how quickly we dismiss that small effort. We're
Yeah.
always chasing the big visible leap, that instant gratification,
Right.
but real improvement.
Right.
It rarely happens in a straight line like that.
Okay, that brings us to something really key from the analysis. This idea of the valley of disappointment. Can you tell us about that? Because that sounds like exactly where most people ditch their 1 degree shift.
Oh, absolutely. The valley of disappointment. It's that point where people quit because they expect progress to be linear,
Yeah.
right? They put in effort, they expect immediate results.
Yeah, makes sense.
But what they actually experience, especially at the start, is flat or just invisible results.
Yeah.
You start exercising, maybe just 10 minutes, you study English for 5 minutes, and for weeks, sometimes even months, you just don't see a difference.
Ugh, yeah. You feel like you're doing the work.
You are doing the work,
Yeah.
but the results haven't, kicked in yet. You're still on that early, flat part of the compounding curve.
Mm.
We confuse the effort we're putting in with the results we expect to see immediately. The real power of these habits only shows up when you push past that invisible plateau, and then suddenly the curve starts to shoot upwards. Consistency is what gets you across that valley.
Okay, so if the results are so delayed, how on earth do we keep going? How do we sustain the effort? And that leads us right back to why big goals often fail, doesn't it? They trigger our defenses.
They absolutely do. When we set those huge, intimidating goals, I'm going to run a marathon next month or
Yeah.
write a book in 30 days,
Yeah, the crazy
we
ones.
basically trigger what some authors call the lizard brain.
Okay, lizard brain, not like a literal lizard.
No, no. It's not a precise scientific term, but it's great shorthand for that primitive part of us, the amygdala, the instinctual bits, hardwired for survival and saving energy,
Right, the lazy part.
that love safety, routine, low effort. And these high-intensity goals, they just scream, danger, high effort needed. And that lizard brain immediately throws up resistance. Procrastination kicks in.
So intensity means instant friction, exhaustion. But contrast that with these small habits. They're described as what? Easy, light, sustainable.
Exactly. They don't scare the survival mechanism. They're just too small to register as a threat.
Ah.
That's why the concrete advice is often the 5-minute rule. Just start with 5 minutes. 5 minutes of stretching, 5 minutes of reviewing your language notes, 5 minutes to just plan your day.
5 minutes.
It's almost too small to fail,
Yeah.
right? And crucially, it's too small for your brain to even bother putting up a fight.
Wait, so the secret to massive change is focusing on something trivial that feels so backward. How does 5 minutes of study actually change who I am? It can't just be the work itself, it must be psychological.
It absolutely is psychological. And this is, I think, the deepest insight here. The real purpose of that tiny habit isn't the immediate result. It's the identity shift it creates over time.
Identity shift. Okay.
Think of it like this. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become. Yeah. If you want to be a writer, well, writing just one sentence today casts a vote for I am a writer. If you want to be multilingual, studying one phrase casts a vote for I am a language learner.
Huh. So even if the actual output of that 5 minutes feels like nothing right now,
Negligible. Yeah.
the consistency of casting that vote day after day is building this deep internal belief.
Precisely. We tend to focus on outcome goals, lose 20 pounds, learn fluent English, but those are kind of fleeting, right? Identity-based habits are different. When you commit to that tiny action daily, you're actually changing how you see yourself. You
Mm.
start to believe deep down, okay, I'm the kind of person who shows up. I'm
Yeah.
the kind of person who improves, even if it's just a tiny bit. And that internal shift, that's the bedrock for lasting change.
Right.
And you only get there through daily consistency, not these big, intense bursts every now and then.
That makes so much sense. Once you genuinely believe you are that person, the bigger actions don't feel like a struggle anymore. They feel
Right.
like confirmation. Like, of course I'm doing this. This is who I am. Okay, so how do we automate this new identity? This is where it gets really interesting, right? How the brain turns these small, consistent actions into automatic routines. The habit loop.
The habit loop, yes. It's essentially the blueprint for, well, pretty much every behavior we have. The analysis shows every habit, good or bad, breaks down into 3 parts,
Huh.
always.
3 parts. Okay.
First, there's the cue. That's the trigger, the signal that kicks off the behavior.
Mm.
Often it's tied to a time, a place, and a motion.
Okay.
Cue, second, you have the routine. That's the actual action you take.
Routine. Got it.
And finally, number 3 is the reward. That's the positive feeling, the satisfaction, the outcome that tells your brain, hey, this loop is worth remembering and doing again.
Cue, routine, reward. Okay. And the genius of the small habits approach then is how it plays with the cue, right? Instead of waiting for motivation, which never shows up on time,
Huh. Never.
we use something called habit stacking.
That's right, habit stacking. It's brilliant, really. You link the new habit you want to form, the new routine, directly onto an existing habit you already do without thinking.
Ah, piggybacking.
Exactly. You leverage the automaticity of the old habit to trigger the new one. Let's use that practical example from the research. Say you want to listen to more English content.
Okay.
The new routine is listen to a short English podcast, maybe like this deep dive.
Shameless plug. Okay.
So you need a solid cue. Instead of vaguely saying, oh, I'll listen sometime today, you stack it. You say, after I make my morning coffee, that's your existing cue, I will listen to the deep dive. That's the new routine.
Coffee first, then podcast.
Right. And the immediate reward, well, it's the feeling of being productive, plus you're enjoying your coffee. The brain connects those things instantly.
Wait, hang on. So the key isn't motivation at all. It's just latching the new thing onto something my brain already likes, like coffee.
Pretty much. Motivation is flaky, it comes and goes. Your existing habits, they're reliable, they're automatic. We're just tapping into the brain's desire for efficiency. We're not asking it to drum up new willpower out of thin air. We're just asking it to redirect a behavior pattern that's already running.
Okay, that brings up a practical question, though. If someone listening wants to, optimize this loop right now, what's the easiest part to tweak for a beginner? The cue, the routine, or the reward?
Oh, good question. For a total beginner, optimizing the cue is usually the fastest way to get started.
The cue. Why that one?
Well, think about it. The routine still takes effort, right? And the reward might be delayed or not super obvious at first. But the cue, that's often environmental. You can control your environment.
Make it visible.
Exactly. Make the good habits obvious. You reduce the friction, the decision-making needed. So for instance, if your desired routine is 5 minutes of guitar practice, don't hide the guitar in the closet. Leave the guitar stand right next to your favorite comfy chair. So when you sit down, that's the cue, bam, the guitar is right there staring at you.
Yeah.
It makes starting the routine almost automatic.
Or the book on the pillow example.
Right. Goal is reading more. Put the book right on your pillow.
Mm.
The moment you walk into the bedroom to sleep, cue, the book is unavoidable. You're making the good choice, the easy choice, the default choice.
That is incredibly practical. It takes the mental load off, doesn't it? Takes remembering out of the equation. So let's try and bring this all together now. Define a kind of system for the listener. Because we heard earlier, you don't always need a fancy teacher or a life coach. What you really need is a sustainable system.
That's the core idea.
Okay, so based on everything we've talked about, here's maybe a template, like a plug-and-play system you can use for pretty much anything. First, identify an existing cue. Something solid. When you wake up, maybe. Or just before you start making dinner. Pick one reliable moment. Then define your tiny routine. Keep it small. Like shadow one paragraph of English text aloud, or do 5 quick air squats, something you can do in under 5 minutes.
Tiny is key.
And finally, lock in the reward. Maybe it's just marking an X on a physical calendar immediately after that feels good, or letting yourself enjoy 5 minutes of something guilt-free. Make it immediate.
That cues, routines, rewards framework leads us back to maybe the most critical insight from all this research, the huge difference between goals and systems.
Right. Goals versus systems.
We spend so much time agonizing over the destination, right? The outcome goal. I want to be fluent. I want to lose X pounds.
Yeah.
But we don't focus enough on building the actual road that gets us there. And that road is the system. A goal is like a one-time thing you achieve. A system is the process you follow that leads to those achievements repeatedly.
And there's that powerful quote that just ties it all together perfectly, from the 1 degree shift to the identity piece to this. It's the ultimate reminder of where we should put our energy.
Yes. It's the quote that honestly should fundamentally shift how you think about improving yourself. It's from James Clear, and he says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems."
Oof. You fall to the level of your systems.
Think about that for a second. Really think. When life gets tough, when you're stressed, when motivation vanishes, when that lizard brain just wants to conserve energy, you stop aiming for your grand goal of mastering English.
Yeah, you just try to survive the day.
Exactly. And in those moments, you default to your minimum standard, your baseline, your system. If your system is consistent, small, automatic, Clater, or Maddox, you keep making progress, even if it's tiny. But if your system relies on huge bursts of willpower you don't have right now, you fall back, you fail.
That just nails it. Success isn't about how high you set your sights. It's about how reliable your tiny, repeatable systems are.
Couldn't say it better.
So, the core message to take away from this deep dive is Forget the pressure. Ditch the radical reinvention idea for now. Start small. Really small. Lock in that 5-minute habit. Focus on being consistent. And trust that those nonlinear, compounding, monumental results, they will follow eventually.
And just before we wrap up, really try to internalize that identity shift we talked about. Use those mental cues daily to reinforce who you're becoming. Spend just a moment reflecting on how your small actions actually support that bigger identity.
How do you mean? Like affirmations?
Sort of, but more connected to the action. So instead of just thinking, ugh, I have to read this page, maybe reflect for a second. I am the kind of person who learns something new every day.
Reframing it.
Exactly. Or instead of stressing about the future outcome, reflect, my consistent habits right now are shaping my future.
Okay.
When you focus on who you are becoming, not just what you are doing, it moves beyond just like ticking a box. It becomes real commitment.
Your success really is locked into those tiny daily actions. So the challenge is, go find one existing cue in your day. The kettle boiling, closing your laptop, plugging in your phone, whatever it is.
I'm that moment.
And stack one tiny 5-minute routine onto it. Apply what we've talked about in this deep dive right now.
Yeah.
Start casting those votes for your new identity.
Start today.
We'll see you for the next deep dive.